I don't know how you think about this Christmas time, whether it strikes you that as the years go by, the magic of Christmas is in danger of fading away. Maybe you've felt that each year you long to recapture that magical Christmas morning feeling you had as a child, and you can't quite do it. But what if we have it all wrong? What if, rather than the magic of Christmas gradually fading away as we get older, it ought to work the other way around? That as the years go by, the magic, the wonder, the marveling at Christmas just ought to rise and rise and rise. Well, the last reading that Shiny read for us, that is printed on the back of that little card that you've got, I'd love to just take a few minutes to think with you about the way in which maybe it could be so, and the wonder and the magic of Christmas might grow as we see what really happened there. Two things that I want to pick out. First, what Christmas shows us, and then what Christmas gives us. It's odd, isn't it? As we think about what Christmas shows us, it's odd that in John's account, this last one that we've read, there's no stable, no shepherd, no donkey or innkeeper, no star, not a wise man to be found anywhere. Because John leaves all of that to the other gospel writers. Because it seems as if John is more concerned not with the mechanics of that first Christmas, but with the meaning of it. He wants to show us what the birth of Jesus is really all about. And his summary is there in that very last paragraph of the reading. The Word became flesh. And as Bryony was saying, the flesh word there really is a very earthy word. It's a sort of meat word. It's about as a crude a word as John could have chosen to say, he really did. He became flesh. What does that mean, though? The Word became flesh. Well, we scan back to the top of the reading, and John tells us that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. And then he tells us that through this Word all things were made, that without him nothing was made that has been made. You might say that this Word is the ultimate builder. Not talking about a few building projects here and there, not an extension to an existing property. No, this Word built everything. Every atom and every galaxy, every molecule and every person. Extraordinary idea. So who is this Word? What kind of person could there be who was with God from the very beginning? And then we spot it. The Word was God. So that's it. That's what John is saying, this extraordinary idea. That this Word who was God took flesh. I wonder if we've seen this, really seen it. That at the first Christmas, God burst into his own creation. Oh, we get this so wrong, don't we? We misunderstand this over and over again. Because something in us is convinced that, I don't know, that God is somehow a little bit like the Loch Ness Monster. You know, that there are a few sort of eccentric types who claim to have seen him, and they go on about him quite a bit. And yes, maybe he's there, and maybe he isn't, and maybe if I searched for ages and joined in with all their sonar business, I might find him as well. But to be honest, what difference would it really make? But all the time we've got it wrong. Because it's not actually about us heading off searching for God. No. What John is telling us, that it's about God come searching for us. The Word became flesh, made his dwelling among us. As it happens, 3 days ago I held a newborn in my arms because we were blessed with a third grandchild. So there I was with little Tally, gazing down, counting her little fingers, so tiny, so precious, so vulnerable, especially with a 2.5-year-old big brother boisterously bouncing around all over the place. So very, very small, tiny person, a new life. And you see that here, John is telling us that had I been around 2,000 years ago, and had I cradled that baby in my arms, then when I gazed down, I would have gazed down into the very face of God. I'd have gazed down into the face of the one who made me. That's what John's saying here. Did you see the outrageousness of it? For John to tell us that the baby in the manger was God the Creator. It means he made the trees from which the wood was taken to build the cradle in which he lay. He made the plants that provided the straw on which his head was resting. He even made the woman who had given him birth. It messes with your mind, this magic of Christmas. That the God of all creation squeezed himself into 8 pounds of fragile humanity. It's kind of crazy when you stop and think about it, isn't it? I mean, who would make this up? Who would dream up an idea like this? What other religion would have anything to say like this? See, Jesus didn't come as a guide. He didn't come pointing us beyond himself that we might spot God out there. No, he came to point to himself. He came to reveal God. He came to be God on earth, that we might be able to see him and know him and experience him. But why? Why would God do such an extraordinary thing? I mean, was it just to satisfy our curiosity so that if anybody asked us what God was like, we'd have an answer? Is that what it was about? No, it wasn't that. No, the Word became flesh because there's a problem. There's a world of difference, isn't there? If you stop and think about it for a moment. There's a world of difference between a builder knocking on your door and offering to give you a lecture about structural engineering, cavity walls, foundation depths, the legal requirement for insulation. All very interesting, just to give you a little bit of lecture about that. World of difference between that and a builder knocking on your door and saying, there's a crisis. You need my acro pops. You need my strong boys, because your house is falling down. And if I don't get going quickly and rebuild it from the foundation up, you're in big trouble. World of difference between two builders doing that. See, God didn't break into our world to satisfy our curiosity. He came on a rescue mission. He came because it was urgent. I think the reason we get so confused about this is because we find it so hard to believe that God could be good for us. We're convinced that if God did show up, it would be with lots of rules and regulations to make life miserable, when all the time he came to set us free. There are some things that go together, aren't there? What might we think of? We might think about builders and white vans, or vicars and churches. But if we move past the stereotypes, there are some things that really go together, like whales and the ocean. Because put a whale in the ocean, and you're putting it where it belongs. Whales aren't constrained by the ocean. You don't get whales feeling all grumpy that they're stuck in this horrible wet stuff. No. Whales are delighted to be in the ocean because that's what they were designed to be. That's where they can really be themselves. What if the magic of Christmas is God coming to do the same for us? Which brings us to the second thing that this passage shows us. Having seen what Christmas reveals to us, what Christmas shows us, now see what Christmas gives us. It's tucked into the middle of the reading, where John tells us that to those who received him, To those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Families differ, don't they? Some families short on love. Some families short on resources to show the love that they do have. Some families incomplete. And in the end, every family loses someone. But in this family, in God's family, there's no lack, no limitation, no loss. It's the best family ever. But the truth is that left to ourselves, you and I are not part of it. How could we be part of it when we haven't treated God as our Father? When we haven't honoured him or stayed close to him, we haven't made him and his family a priority in our lives. In a sense, that's why things are the way that they are. Because us living outside the family of God is rather like a whale living outside the ocean. And we've seen what that looks like, don't we? We've all seen a beached whale thrashing around, increasingly desperate, gasping for breath, slowly losing strength, all because they're not where they're supposed to be. They're not living in the place for which they were made. And that's us. Thrashing around, slowly losing strength, all because we're not where we're supposed to be, aren't in the place for which we were made. So what holds us back? If it's that good and if being in the family is what we really need, what keeps us? Well, I think it's because it's personal. Again, in the middle of the reading, we read that Jesus came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. There's a story told about an old woman who was desperately behind on her rent and was facing eviction as a result. But one Christmas, a church heard about her struggles financially and decided to do something about it. And they gathered up the funds that were needed to completely cover her rent arrears. And in the run-up to Christmas, they arrived with the gift to give to her, knocked on the door. There's no answer. They were sure she was inside, and they knocked and knocked again, called out. No answer. Because inside, the woman had misunderstood. See, she was convinced it was the landlord at the door, come to demand the rent, possibly to evict her for good. So she ignored the knocking. She didn't dare open the door. It is funny, isn't it, how we think of God? See, if you just turn a few pages on, if we had John's Gospel open, then we could turn a few pages on and see the boy grown into a man, and we'd see the first of his miracles, which happened at a wedding and happened at a crisis point because the wine had run out and the party was in danger. And what did Jesus do? Turn the water into wine so the celebrations could continue. And we are so convinced it's the other way round. So convinced that if Jesus did turn up, well, he'd come to spoil our fun. We're convinced that Jesus is the sort of man who would turn wine into water and tell us to be a bit more sensible. And so we continue on the beach, thrashing around, gasping for breath, when all along there's an ocean beside us, just waiting for us to get in and swim. The Word became flesh. He knocks on the door. A God who knows us and loves us. A God who came and stood in our place. A God who wore our shoes so that we could wear his. So that we could become children of his heavenly Father. Well, as I wrap up, if I told you that there was someone knocking on your door who knows you better than you know yourself, who loves you better than you've ever been loved. Someone knocking on your door who wants to give you the gift that would set you truly free. Wouldn't you at least want to take a look, see who's there? On 4 Sunday mornings in January, we're going to have some explore sessions. They're designed for people who would do that. They're not designed for people who want to fling the door open and invite Jesus in. It's not for people who want to do that yet. It's for people who would be willing to just open the door a crack, take a peek, see who this person is who knocks on the door. Wouldn't you fix to come? To discover how the magic of Christmas needn't fade away with the passing years, but grow year on year with a deepening wonder at this gift that surpasses all gifts.